Good morning, everyone. This is your host, Miguel Narvaez. This is the People Matter Show. Today, we have a very special guest, and he is the president for Neo Home Loans. And today, we're going to be talking about mortgage, and we're going to be talking about interest rates and the industry. So, it's going to be a very, very interesting morning. Ryan, good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Miguel. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Ryan, let's jump into it. Can you tell us a little bit about your experience? How is it that you built your division, became a president of your own group? This is a very tough market, but tell us before we start, tell us about you and how you started building your business.
Yeah, I've had an interesting journey in the mortgage business. I started out as a refi call center originator, mainly doing a lot of subprime refinances. And this was when I was 21, 22, right? This is right out of college. Initially, I started so I could save up money to to go to law school. Later realized I didn't want to do that and just kind of meandered around in the mortgage space aimlessly for quite some time, to the point to where I was going to leave the industry in 2010. My father convinced me to give it one more shot and actually try and go meet realtors and get purchase business and use my kind of strengths from a personality perspective to try and grow business. I'm very grateful that I listened to him because in 2011 is when I really feel like I started my career. Everything from that point on really led to what we're doing now, which is the creation and the practice that we have here at Neo Home Loans, now powered by Better. And there had been a lot of things, from how I started in 2011 to today that formed what we believe will be the mortgage company of the future, that is focused on helping highly valuable, financially literate mortgage professionals make the largest impact they can make in the communities that they serve. And so everything we do is really focused on that goal.
So you guys are powered by Better, and which is a heavy technology mortgage company out of New York, right? Am I right?
Yes.
And uh, tell us about Better and about your technology that you're currently using that makes us unique or makes you
Yeah.
guys unique.
When we were on this journey to disrupt the mortgage industry from a value proposition perspective, from a financial economic standpoint perspective, we thought we were on the path to really do that, and we realized after Better had reached out to us and showed us what they had built and what they wanted to build, there was two flaws in our mortgage practice. One was our technology was very antiquated. It created a lot of additional cost. It created very low ability to scale. We'd be on the hiring and firing train. Our cost of fulfillment would continue to climb. We wouldn't be able to deliver phenomenal consumer experiences as much as we wanted to. And so when we saw that technology that Better had built, at first I got scared because
Mhm.
I had never seen anything like that in the mortgage space before. No one had, because it's a proprietary technology that isn't available to the rest of the industry. So we're all playing around with 20 different vendors trying to solve a bunch of tech problems. And meanwhile, they had created it all on one platform, and that really frightened me because I didn't know how we were going to be able to compete with their ability to lower the cost of fulfillment so drastically. Their underwriters help 13.2 families a day. Ours were doing 1 to 2 a day. They don't necessarily need processors in their system. They don't need a good majority of human involvement in their process, and so they're able to bring the cost of fulfillment down so substantially that they can deliver a really competitive product to the client and still earn just as much, if not more, revenue than somebody who's charging almost twice as much. Um, and I just saw that as a fundamental arms race in this business that we've all been struggling with. The second thing was their access to kind of your average family in the United States. Our team, amongst every kind of independent mortgage professional in the space, who our job is to go create relationships and go get our communities to know who we are, and we network our way to referrals and repeat and retention business. And that's about 65% of the mortgage industry is that type of independent mortgage banker or broker. And we just couldn't find as many people who needed our help. right? There just weren't as many people who needed to refinance or access equity or take cash out, or 9 out of 10 people didn't want to buy a house. So most mortgage professionals are just having a hard time lead generating in an appropriate way. And when we found out that Better was generating 30,000 interested, purchase leads per month,
Right.
and their biggest problem was conversion, we said, well, your two biggest strengths are our two biggest weaknesses. And it created a really cool opportunity for us to both just like be curious about what a partnership would look like. Because initially we shut it down. We were like, no, that's like asking Danielson to go train with Cobra Kai. It's a model difference that like shouldn't be overcome. But I give credit to the whole Better team, Chad, Vishal, everybody there, for just not being overly egoic with their idea of what it meant to change the mortgage industry. And we ultimately were able to do the same, and we met at a really interesting place. And I think that, for the average mortgage professional, for the mortgage professional of the future, this is the place where you will want to be, because it supports your business in so many ways.
Now, how long have you been with them?
I started with them or actually beginning of November, so we're coming up on 6 months now.
Nice. Because they were basically a inside sales, like a call center back in the days. They had some issues also with a couple I think it was a couple of years ago with some funding issues and things like that. But it seems that they turned everything around. And so now they are also promoting a retail side as well. They're building a retail side. Is that the
Yeah,
case?
they
Or
they realized that their mission was to make homeownership more affordable and more accessible for more people.
right?
When our CEO Vishal Garg, when he tried to buy his first home, as a very wealthy, fintech operator,
Hmm.
it took him 3 weeks to get a pre-approval, and he lost the home. Right, and so he said, "This is crazy. Like, if someone like me can't get a mortgage, it's almost like the mortgage industry doesn't know the internet exists." And he immediately took his earnest money deposit that he was going to use on that home, and he bought the URL better.com, and he turned his attention to the mortgage industry. And the disruption he made was very obvious, right? They went from 0 to 100 billion in total fundings inside of, I think 6 years, which is something no one had ever done. They did 58 billion in 1 year. And I remember during the COVID years, the low rate years, they were kicking our butt up and down, taking our clients, closing them in 10 days when it was taking us 4 months to close a loan because we couldn't scale. And I just couldn't for the life of me figure out how they were doing it. And then obviously they had a lot of bad press when they were downsizing. And I think the mortgage industry as a whole, after getting, you know, kind of run over by them, we all created this vilification complex, right? That they're the bad guy and we're the good guys because we're trying to do it our way. But if we really stop and take a second to understand, like, they were just trying to create a more valuable, better product for their clients just in their own way. And when interest rates went up, they realized that their direct to consumer team, right? The people who are in charge of ingesting these 30,000 purchase leads a month, they were not converting them, right? 85% of those leads would close with somebody local at, a higher rate, higher cost. And so they got really curious about why that was happening. And then they realized if they could use their technology and empower highly valuable, trained, very local mortgage professionals, that they can do some really interesting things, right? They could set out to continue on their path, and it also helped our just cause as well.
Yeah. He's great visionary, Rachel. I saw him in a conference in New York about 5 years ago, I think it was, when Better was, doing a lot of noise and a lot, and
Yeah.
they growing pretty fast, and very smart guy. But let's talk about you, Ryan. I mean, you been growing a team, you expanding. What states are you doing business now, other than Utah?
We're in all 50 states.
Your team, as a team?
Yeah. Yep.
Wow. So tell us more about your growth. How I see that you do a lot of seminars, you always coaching, which is, I mean, that is awesome. Not a lot of people do that, by the way. And as a leader yourself, what has been the key for your success to attract other leaders to grow your team? What has been that difference that is creating the momentum in your business?
Yeah, we're really fortunate in that we have a bit of a natural filter for our kind of attraction mechanisms. In 2018, I was one of the top 25 mortgage professionals in the country. But if you would have asked me what I did for work, I would have just been like, oh, I'm in the mortgage business, right? With that level of excitement and pride. And people would see that and they'd be curious, like, why aren't you more excited? You're really good at it. And it was because I wasn't proud of the fact that I was being celebrated for selling debt to more people than others. I looked back at my database of clients and they owned homes, but they weren't actually becoming successful homeowners. They were mismanaging equity. They weren't taking advantage of opportunities. And over time, as I started learning more and being more curious, myself and a few of my business partners, we realized, people buy homes so they can create some semblance of wealth for them and their family. Right? It's one of the major reasons. But what most people confuse is they believe that wealth comes from money, and it doesn't. Right? Wealthy people are wealthy because they have information. And they have people in their lives who are committed to giving them information, and they surround themselves with people they can learn from. And sometimes they have enough money where they can actually invest in people to give them information. But 92+% of America is not going to have that. I started losing clients to rate when rates popped up at the end of 2018, and people were going with random companies over me, who I was number one on my market, top 25 in the country. And I was like, shouldn't that mean something? Like, why are they choosing just the cheaper option? And then I got really clear, like, oh, well, it's because they believe that a mortgage is a mortgage, right? And quite honestly, what I was delivering was not much different than what they could have got at a cheaper lender. Now, yes, we had better customer service, we had better communication, we had better bells and whistles. But at the end of the day, that was their mortgage, right? And so I got really curious, and then I got upset, and I said, all right, that's it. Like, we're not going to be a dollar more expensive than the cheapest lender in the market unless we can quantifiably show our clients how valuable we will be to them and their family for the next 30 years. Like, I'm going to commit to helping them grow their generational wealth in ways that no one in their life is committing to. And initially, I started that for my team, and the results were incredible because when you open up the scope from 30 days of help, right, to 30 years of value, people really start to see what they're missing. Right? They understand, okay, this is just one part of wealth creation, but there's going to be an infinite number of steps between now and 30 years from now. And I really would like Ryan and his team's help on this. And so we started offering a different product, right? It was more than just a mortgage. We realized that we couldn't change the industry alone. Even though we were helping a lot of clients, it wasn't going to make a dent. And so we opened up to the mortgage industry. We called it the art of homeownership, something that still exists today. But we had over 400 mortgage professionals across the country who, when I told them, hey, do you want to just stop selling debt and do you want to start helping people grow their generational wealth? Like, that landed with a lot of people. They really had a sense of pride and fulfillment in offering something more substantive to their clients than just debt. And a movement really started from that. And the feedback we kept getting from everybody was, Ryan, we love this, right? We want to be this person to our clients. We want to make this commitment, but we just can't execute it. Right? We're already doing too much. And there's no way I can tell a client that we're going to help them for the next 30 years if I don't have the team, the infrastructure, the revenue, the technology, or the resources to do it. So we got really curious. We just said, look, if this is going to actually take hold, we need to build an enterprise that is the DNA of the organization. So that and a few other factors are where Neo stemmed from. So we started Neo at the end of 2020, and we basically just put the message out to the mortgage universe that if you want to just stop selling debt, right, and you want to make a broader, more valuable commitment to your clients, that you're going to help them not just own a home, but become very successful as a homeowner, that's what we're doing. And if you're interested, let us know. And that was the filter, right? It was, you either got really excited to do that and you reached out to us, or you said, oh, that's stupid. People just want cheap interest rates and, low cost. And then you didn't connect with us, right? So it made the attraction filter very natural.
Yeah. So the mortgage world has a lot of up and downs, and at the end, I think that in the industry itself, I mean, everyone is trying different ways, but everyone is trying to help people to become homeowners or to invest. In your case, and I do understand the fact that you are a hard believer on technology, which streamlines the process. But in the case of the consumer, how are you making a difference on the consumer side? And I do believe that you are truly committed with the consumers. But what are you offering different from most companies out there? How is it making the difference for that consumer?
Great question. So let's say, for example, you were referred to us by Sally, your realtor, right? The first thing we do is we tell everybody as loudly as we can, we don't just want to talk to people who want to buy or refinance a home, right? Because that's a very small segment of the population, right? People who already know for a matter of fact that they're going to buy a home and they need a mortgage, or they have a high rate, or they want to refi. Like, there's very few people who have that type of clarity in the world right now. So we tell people, please, anyone you talk to, if you hear them say, I'm interested, I kind of want to, I'm not sure, I don't know if it's the right time, please refer those people to us.
Hmm.
Because our job as mortgage professionals has fundamentally changed, right? It used to be for decades that we would wait for someone to be referred to us who's already made the decision to buy or refinance. And then when they've made that decision, our job is to help execute and essentially deliver their loan. We're the pharmacists of the financial industry, right? Like, they've already gotten the plan. Now all we have to do is just fill the order. That's not true today, right? There's many more people who don't know what to do, right? So now we are the doctors of the mortgage industry, right? We're asking great questions. We're uncovering some insecurities financially, understanding your emotion as it relates to real estate and housing. And so our job is to take someone who is fearful and curious and uncertain and replace that with excitement, confidence, and motivation, right? For the people that it's necessary. So that's the first thing we do, right? Is we help people try and get from I'm not sure to I can't wait,
Right.
right? And then we have what we call a before, during, and after value proposition, where, typically if you were to evaluate a lender, right, as a let's say you're a potential home buyer, again, Sally referred you, right? You would be evaluating mortgage companies really based upon a 30-day window, right? How quickly can you get me pre-approved? What's your rate? What's your cost? How quickly can you close? What do your customer service reviews say? That's kind of the extent to which you would do your due diligence. Well, we say, look, there's a quite a long window before the transaction ever starts where we are going to help you increase the likelihood of getting your offer accepted. We're going to help make you look like a cash offer so you don't have to pay as much on that home as the competing offers you're going against. We're going to help you get a lower rate through using seller concessions. We are going to ensure that you are highly confident in the way that you structure this, right? Your down payment. We want to make sure your post-closing liquidity is strong. We want to make sure that you have a lot of protections, right, from the potential outcomes that could happen. So we have a very clear understanding of what value we add to you and your family before the transaction ever starts.
Right.
During the transaction, we're going to be just as valuable as anybody else, right? Because it's just not that hard, right? It's just math, paperwork, and timing, right? So we do those just as well as anybody else, right? But we up level the consumer experience. We allow you to experience the joy of becoming a homeowner. And we do that because if we are average in the transaction, you'll be indifferent to us moving forward. If we're below average during the transaction, you won't want anything to do with us. But if we go above and beyond and we create a transformative experience for you and your family while you're buying this home, you will invite us into your life for the next 30 years. And you will want us to participate in our commitment to you. And that's really where the 60% of our value is I'm going to say, Miguel, if you thought we were helpful for the last 30 days, you're going to be blown away with what we do for you and your family for the next 30 years, right? We have an entire post-closing team. We call them client success managers that is trained on personal finance, on holistic wealth, on real estate. And their job, you would get connected with one of them, and their job is on behalf of our team to help you navigate the next 30 years, right? The changes in your life, the ups and downs, the goals that we're going to set together. We're going to put you in touch with CPAs, financial planners, estate planning attorneys, make sure that you're insured on all levels of home ownership. We're going to do what's called a perfect mortgage promise, where we ensure that you're always in the right home and the right loan at the right time as interest rates fluctuate, as your life is changing and evolving. We're going to help you set real estate goals. We have a saying here at NEO that if our clients ever call us and tell us that they want to buy, sell, or finance a home, that is a failure, because we should be so proactively engaged that we help them decide when to buy, sell, or finance a property through education and planning, and then we just
Right.
execute on that plan. So a lot of our clients will come to us maybe interested in buying a home, and you look back 10 years later and they'll now have multiple properties. They'll be appropriately insured. They'll have great liquidity. They'll have a balanced investment portfolio. They'll be planning for real estate and retirement appropriately. They'll understand how it integrates with their parents' real estate and livelihood, their children's college tuition and livelihood. We just go the extra mile because, for 92% of America, they don't have anyone in their corner, right? Their wealth is going to be limited by the information that they self-source, and we are plugging ourselves in and saying, you don't have to do that. We got you there.
That's awesome. Now let's switch a little bit into working with professionals, working with the real estate side. And I see that you also give seminars to realtors as well, I believe. Now, for decades, and I was a loan officer as well many years ago. I mean, looking for partnerships, looking to work with realtors is always being like part of your to-do list when you are a great loan officer. You have to create partnerships, you have to work with realtors, you have to provide great service. What is in your when you're teaching your loan officers, how are they making a difference with those partnerships that you're creating? I do believe that you have a value of, obviously, if you have leads coming in from better, you can help the partnerships. That's a great advantage. But how are your loan officers? What are you teaching your loan officers to really retain those partnerships and to build constantly more partnerships, more realtor partnerships as you guys are growing?
That is a ever evolving business model. It used to be that, when I first started, I could go to any open house and, meet a realtor and get them to like me relatively quickly, and they would have clients to refer. If you really looked back at my early origination career, a lot of my business came from, I would say, lower to average producing real estate agents. Right now, over time, we started to work with some of the higher producing agents, which is great. But it's hard to crack into those relationships, especially if they have established relationships. It's hard to, show a greater value proposition than their current lender. Not always, but sometimes. Now that has evolved, right? Because 74% of real estate agents didn't help a single family in 2024, right? So if you go out and talk to 10 agents, 7.5 of them will have nothing really to offer. 92% of the business was done by the top 10% of the agents, right? So of those 10, you really only want to be talking to one. And that one will likely, again, have an established lending partner in some capacity. There could be deeply rooted business, kind of collaborations, economic infrastructures. So what we are excited is that, we get to offer to the best real estate agents in the country, we get to offer quite a few things. One is we get to offer a value proposition that will help stop the commoditization of the real estate professional. And so if you talk to an agent who is working with Neo, this is what you should hear. Let's imagine you're buying a home and I'll be your real estate agent. Hey, Miguel, I know you're interested in buying a home and you're evaluating buyer's agents that you should work with. And I know you've mentioned commission, right? Because it's a very hot topic these days with the NAR settlement and, what do buyer's agents earn and who pays them. What I want to share with you, Miguel, is that I think you as a buyer paying 3% commission, let's say you're buying a $500,000 house, paying $15,000 to me and my team to help you for 30 days is probably inappropriate. And now we've gotten away with it as an industry for quite some time, just because it was common practice. But what I will tell you is I think that's too much to pay for a transactional agent. The reason why our clients pay us 3% as buyer's agents is because we don't help you for 30 days. If we just help you for 30 days so you could own a home, well, at the end of it, you'd be a homeowner. Our clients work with us proactively, and we are committed to helping you grow your wealth over the next 30 years. And I want to show you all the things we do in combination with our financing team to help you, where that $15,000 commission versus maybe $10,000 or $5,000 will pale in comparison to the wealth that we generate for you and your family. People don't choose us because we're the cheapest real estate agents. They choose us because we're the most valuable team of people in your life for the next 30 years in every aspect of real estate or finance. Now, I've never met a realtor that could say that because they didn't have a way to execute on it.
Yeah.
Right? But that's what our realtors will tell their clients. And then, you had touched on it. We have 30,000 families a month that, 70% of them don't have a real estate agent relationship. 20% of them do have homes to sell, right? So we can do what we are expected to do as mortgage professionals, but we can also show up as business partners in the lead generation aspect of the business, which is just quite frankly getting harder for everybody.
Nice, very nice. So realtors, I always used to tell them, and I tell them, and I mean, I had a lot of good partners, and I always used to tell everyone, realtors are they always demand too much. They always put all the blame to be on the loan officer side most of the time. Not all of them, most of them, because like you said, 75% of them they don't really work 100% of the time in real estate. A lot of realtors are part-timers, but loan officer for many years had that realtors had that reputation. Real estate agents had that reputation that they were kind of a divas in the industry where you were begging realtors to get the business. But it seems that you guys are changing that model. You guys are really finding a way to create really true partnerships to really help the consumer in the long term, not just in a short term, which is amazing.
Yeah, I mean, look, let's just, coming from the mortgage angle, we can all understand how we felt, right? We felt like they're commoditized and, they would judge us on if we'd answer our phone at midnight or if we would get back to them on the weekends and how quickly we respond. And, if we make mistakes, all those things. Because look, what else did they have to judge us on, right? We were legitimately all the same. I had one real estate agent in the Vegas market say, I'll never work with another lender because the lender that I work with will even stop having sex to answer my phone. That's literally what she said to me. And I was like, is that how we're being judged these days? Right? Like what are experiences in speed to communicate and response time and always answering the phone? And if there's nothing else to separate us, then they'll start picking on things like that to separate us. So
I
like,
can guarantee you that person most likely is the one that does one transaction a month, or maybe one transaction every 2 months,
yeah, but they
and
don't.
that's the one transaction that is depending on her for her to pay her bills. No, I assume.
Yeah, but look, the real estate professional doesn't care because they don't have any other means of separating a good lender from a decent lender from a bad lender, right? So what we're doing is we're giving them something to evaluate us on, right? I tell real estate agents oftentimes today, because again, we speak at large real estate conferences and we're in front of the best agents in the country. Like, if we aren't going to substantively like improve your business, right? If we're not going to help you improve your value proposition, if we're not going to bring additional opportunities your way, right? If we're not going to add value to your database, then there's no need to change from your current lending situation because I'm sure they're good,
Hmm.
right? But I'm sure no one's come to you with a business partnership opportunity that allows you to stand out amongst your competition, that gives you more opportunities to help more families, that improves the effectiveness of your real estate brand, right? And then ultimately is a partner hand in hand, right? In technology and lowering costs of fulfillment and lead acquisition and database value proposition. Oftentimes when we tell real estate agents this, they're kind of a little bit mind blown because no one's come to them with this level of partnership before, and that's what we're excited to do.
That's awesome. Hey, quick questions for quick answers. Rates. Do you think, what's your take on rates? Do you think they're going to remain the same the rest of the year? Are you looking for in your magic white ball that you have somewhere there? Are you expecting the rates to drop? What's your forecast?
Honestly, Miguel, I really try and stay out of the forecasting game
Okay,
because I've seen
fair
it
enough.
do more harm than good. It's one thing to have an inclination as to what might happen so you can be prepared, right? So for example, if you think rates are going to drop 0.5% or 1%, you want to have the infrastructure and the ability to serve as many of your clients as you can. You want to be able to refinance them. You want to be able to make sure they understand that impact. And so you want to understand scope and scale when it comes to how you can help clients as rates come down. But I've also seen people make bad decisions there, right? Where they carry staff too long or where they're betting on that to happen and they're just hoping that the tailwinds show up to propel their boat.
Yeah.
And hope is not a strategy, right? So what we are proud of here at Neo is that We know that our business model will thrive regardless of what happens with rates, right? If rates go up, we are just as valuable as if rates go down, right? Because people will need our help and our advice and our education and our strategy just as much when rates go up as they do when rates go down,
Absolutely,
right?
yes.
Our business partners will need us even more because we will help, with that conversion process and the education process. There will be less competition in the mortgage marketplace as attrition continues if rates stay high or go higher. But I've seen way too many people, you know, if you want some of the most well attended calls in the mortgage business are rate prediction calls. You basically have 100,000 mortgage professionals
Oh
glued to
yeah,
the screen saying, please tell me rates are going to go lower. Why? Because I don't know what I'm going to do if they don't. And that's
yep.
a really dangerous place to be in, right? We should be indifferent to what happens with things outside of our control. And
And I
so we
think
should
that you
be,
said it right. I think that you said it right. No one should be selling rates. I think that's not for the best interest of the consumer. I think that what you explain about how you sell the experience for the next, 20 years of home ownership, I think that's way more valuable than just the rate because, the rate could be 7 today, it could be 5, but you can always refinance later on. So, well said. Let's talk about politics. CFPB. Do you think it's going to remain? What's your forecast? At least we're getting good news that there's a huge relief on the compliance side. How do you see that?
that is another area of the business where I find way too many people tuning into. Now, look, if you are a compliance leader, you need to tune into that, right? If you are a mortgage executive, if you're a mortgage CEO, if you have initiatives that could be enhanced or stopped or have put roadblocks in the way by some of that, then you need to pay attention to it. My audience is not that audience, right? My audience is, you know, the mother or father who is
Right.
helping 2 or 3 families a month, and they feel like they have the potential to help 20 to 30, but they're stuck, right? It's the real estate agent. It's the like those people shouldn't look at that more than 2 minutes and say, look, whatever happens is going to happen to all of us,
Right.
right? So we're all going to be on the same playing field. Let's not spend time outside of things that we can control. Instead, let's go tell our story. Let's go tell millions of consumers and homeowners what they should expect from their mortgage provider. Let's go tell
So
the real estate community how we can change their life. Let's go tell all these clients what
right.
this means to them.
So moving away from compliance, consumer side, first time buyers, I think that they're having a really tough time today because house prices are being going up. Most states, they haven't come down that much. Uh, Few states like Texas and Florida, I believe nationwide, are the ones that are coming down the fastest, but still very high compared with what it used to be a few years ago. But for first-time buyers, obviously, people that are trying to, how are you helping first-time buyers? Do you have a special programs for them other than an FHA? What are you doing to help first-time buyers education-wise and to also put them into a home?
Great question. A couple things. We were talking with a pretty prominent real estate group the other day, and they just said, "Look, if we could just get interest rates at like the mid fives, it would solve everyone's problems." And we looked at them. We said, "Well, that's where rates are." And they're like, "What do you mean? No, they're not." I said, "Well, for home builders, they are. Why wouldn't they be for you too?" And they said, "Well, what do you mean?" So, well, all the home builders we work with, they are, building in concessions to their price in order to offer a more appropriate entry point for that home. Right. So someone doesn't have to pay 7% on a $500,000 house, right? They could pay, 5.5% on a $515,000 house. And the mortgage payment is way lower,
Hmm.
right? And the out of pocket difference is nominal. I said, so why, if as a real estate agent, why would you ever list a home without manipulating the interest rate to a point where you open up that property to way more, to a larger demographic of home buyers? And you see them get really curious, like, well, we probably should be doing that. All right. So when we talk to our buyers, we let them know that our strategies, we're going to help them get a much lower interest rate through seller concessions and through negotiating appropriately with the seller. But the best place we can start is through educating real estate agents, right? Like people don't, when they're looking at buying a home, it's not the sticker price that scares them. It's the monthly payment that scares them, right? And the out of pocket, yeah, it can be scary, but if it's not that big of a difference, right? We're talking about hundreds of dollars or maybe a few $1,000s difference out of pocket to save, $200, $300, $400 a month. And like most people would take that trade. But for first-time home buyers, the biggest thing that we can do outside of helping real estate agents be more cognizant of how to list a property is we need to show them what happens if they don't buy a home. And to me, that is that's if a mortgage professional told me that they were valuable, I would really kind of uncover that point. I say, okay, well, how do you take someone from I'm not sure to I can't wait? Right? Because there's hundreds of thousands of people, millions of people right now that could go online and get pre-approved to buy a house. And there are likely hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people who are pre-approved right now to buy a home, but they're not buying a home. And that's what I tell our real estate agents all the time when we do these, seminars. I say, look, how many pre-approved buyers do you have? Oh, I'm working with 15 pre-approved buyers right now. Why aren't they all in contract? Well, there's nothing they could find. They're not getting their offers accepted, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, well, but they have a piece of paper that says they can buy a home. They should be in contract. They should own a home. Well, that's not how it works, Ryan. You know why? It's because that piece of paper that says that they can buy a home, all that did was scare them. Right? It just showed them a payment that was scary. It showed them an out-of-pocket number that was scary. So
Yeah.
they're already going into the market fearful of having to take this on, and then they're finding homes that are not their forever home, right? That seem overpriced. They get into bidding wars that they don't feel like they want to pay over asking price. There's a lot of things that they'll pick apart. They'll become very complacent home buyers, or they'll exit the market altogether. And I say, look, there's a very big difference between someone who thinks they can buy a home and someone who understands that they should buy a home. And the difference is education, it's advice, right? It's planning, it's consultation. And then if you really want to be an elite level mortgage professional, then you get people to realize they actually must buy a home,
Right.
right? And you show them the cost of waiting analysis. You show them renting versus owning. You show them, 3 years down the line, if they didn't buy a home and they continued renting, what that looks like. You show them what happens if they buy today and what that means to lock in that price and how refinancing over time will help them. I've had a couple families that I've worked with in my career that I really wish I had a time machine because they decided not to buy a home in 2015. They decided not to buy a home in 2017, in 2020, and some of them still don't own homes today. And when I look at the wealth that family left on the table, like that is generational, life-changing wealth. But they don't own a home, not because they decided not to. It's because I wasn't good enough at my job to remove fear and anxiety and uncertainty and get that family to realize what happens if they don't. Right now, everybody at Neo is good at that. We do understand our job is different than it used to be. We take that very serious. And so when clients come to us to get pre-approved, they don't just know what they can do. They understand that they should do it. And most importantly, they'll realize what happens if they don't. Right. And that's a big part of first-time home buyers.
A lot of people still have in their heads interest rates of 3%, 2%, what it used to be back in the days, 2, 3 years ago. And they still think that it's going to come down. And there are a lot of people still thinking that way. Obviously, many others, they already making a decision that that might not happen for another few years. But to your point, I think that in my point of view, people should be paying attention. Can I afford to pay this? Because that's what it matters on a home ownership, in my opinion. If I can afford it, I should be a homeowner. And like you said, I love what you said. I think that between the realtor and the loan officer should find a way because there are home builders, there are options out there with motivated sellers that can be able to help you to become to lower that rate and to make that payment more affordable, right? That's great.
Yeah. It's a change in the belief system of the mortgage professional. I think way too many mortgage professionals, they still think their job is the same, right? If you referred to me, I would take your application, I would collect your documents, I'd give you a pre-approval letter, and then I'd say, all right, Miguel, you're pre-approved. Congratulations. Let me know when you find the perfect home. And, then you get an offer accepted. We tell you what rate you're going to get. We close on time. We have great customer service. And then, you own a home and we don't really ever talk to you again. That's still 99% of the mortgage industry today. And we wonder why we have problems. It's because fundamentally we haven't realized our job on the front end is different than it's ever been. And our job on the back end is much more involved than it's ever been. And the mortgage professionals who can understand those two dynamics, they're going to have an incredible opportunity to shift this industry in a really positive way.
That's great. That's awesome. That's that concept of helping families on the long term, not on a short term, just to get into a home. That's great. That's unique. I've never seen it actually in 20 something years that I've been in the industry as well. But that's great. Lastly, because we're running out of time, and I mean, you have had a great journey. Great. I can see why you're a great leader. I can see why people follow you. What would you tell, with all of the experience that you have now, what would you tell 20 something years ago, a young Ryan Grant to do different?
Yeah, it'd be mentorship. It'd be community. I when I first started my career, there was no mentorship, there was no coaching, there was no community. And there was, I didn't know about it. So everything I did was self-taught, self-researched. Like I literally didn't know that realtors refer business to loan officers, and that's how they like for 6 years, right?
Oh, wow.
And then when I did find that out in 2011, I didn't know that coaching or improvement in your business was a thing for another 5 years. It's 11 of my 20 years in this business where I was just on an island figuring it out on my own. And then I realized I got into coaching in 2016, got into some great communities, learned from some amazing people, and I was able to shortcut my future success. But in a lot of the communities I was in was really focused largely on sales tactics and how to make more money and how to get more loans, and that was great, but it coached me out of balance, right? I became very focused on business and money, and I wasn't a well-rounded person. I wasn't the best father I could be. I wasn't the best husband I could be. I wasn't the best friend, and I definitely wasn't a good leader. And then I was fortunate to get into a community that focused on all those things, right, on top of the mortgage industry. And it's incredible what happens when the entire person becomes better, right? Not just the business person. And that's what this industry has lacked for a very long time is I would say holistic leadership of an individual as opposed to, managers or, sales coaches. And that's what we're really proud of at Neo Powered by Better is that our community that we have, we don't just have a great community of mortgage professionals, we have a great community of human beings. And that community is extending and growing and growing, and we protect it by only letting great human beings in. But to the 20-year ago version of myself, I would say find a community that is the light, right? That in dark times, they bring lightness. They are highly collaborative, right? We work through problems and challenges and find solutions. We innovate collectively together. We're not afraid of change. We, focus on the next 10 years, not the next 10 days. How do we help each other? Like we just literally launched a training course for all of our mortgage advisors that is better than anything I've ever seen in this industry, right? And it's an internal training course for how to do dreams and goals calls, how to do client consultations, how to do contract meetings. And we have some of the best mortgage professionals in the country here that are training and leading on those things. And that type of stuff, like getting better at your craft is something the mortgage industry never does. We just keep working. So I would encourage anybody, including myself 20 years ago, find great mentors, find people who inspire you, find a community that will lift you up because motivation is waning and that will carry you to some really unique places.
That's a great advice. Do you have a mentor right now?
I do. Yeah, I have quite a few. I have a peak performance coach who helps me, kind of in other non-mortgage related areas. I have a mortgage coach, Tim Rahim, in the Loan Atlas community. I have mentors within my organization, my business partners. We have different strengths and weaknesses that we lean on each other for. And now we have the entire Better team, and that is opening up my eyes to what technological advancement, engineering, product development, what that should look like. Because in my previous 20 years, I've never seen anything like it before. I've never seen innovation and change and product creation and technology development at this pace. It's a pretty fun journey to be on.
Ryan, what's next for you in the next 10 years?
We want to just help change the mortgage industry. We want to change the way the consumer interacts with the mortgage professional. We want them to see us for a community of mortgage professionals that help them well in advance of any transaction and far after any transaction is done. My hope is that if a client ever talks to a mortgage professional, that they demand the level of advice, guidance, and strategy we give before a transaction, that they demand the type of proactive financial commitment that we make post closing, and they don't settle for just a mortgage. I hope that the real estate professional embodies that same ethos of value to the consumer. And I want to empower mortgage professionals to take more control over their business, right? To work with an organization that sees them as a business partner, not as an employee, empowers them with technology to replace 95% of what they do, but not the 5% of what matters. And we have a lot of work ahead of us to make that a reality, but we know that we're on the right path.
A lot of people talk about AI and how AI is replacing humans. Bill Gates, back 20 years ago, predicted that real estate agents were going to disappear, which never happened, and it's not going to happen. Walker Mortgage predicted 10 years ago that 50% of the volume of the mortgage volume was going to be through a mortgage application, and which it never happened. I don't think it's going to happen as well. What is your prediction? I mean, the AI and the integration with the mortgage business.
I think the mortgage professional of the future will help 50 to 100 plus families per month, and they will do it in a far more valuable manner, right? They'll be able to spend more time with each one of those clients because 95 to 99% of what a mortgage professional does today will not be a part of their job responsibility moving forward. We're already, experiencing that today because of the technology that we have. And so I think that that's going to be the direction we go. I mean, I'm not sure if you know about AI companions, but
Yep.
in a matter of years, like you'll have one, I'll have one, we'll all have one. And the AI companion is going to go shop for our mortgages for us. It'll shop for insurance. It'll shop for homes. It'll, do our grocery shopping. It'll do a lot of what we need. And if that's the case, right, then it's just going to go find, it's going to kind of search the internet. It's going to get quotes and it'll bring the top 3 quotes of whatever, right, back to me as the human. And then I'm going to have to make a decision on that last mile.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Of these 3 quotes that my AI companion found on the internet, which one do I want to go with? The cheapest, the one in the middle, the highest, and why? And so we're going to empower real estate and mortgage professionals to win that last mile, right? Our
Right.
technology will get the client to us, and then our value proposition will convert that client to a lifetime client of ours. And that's where we see the industry headed.
Well, that was an amazing 50 minutes with you. I can see why you're an amazing leader and people follow you. Great job, Ryan. And you guys have a great future. You're doing the right things for the people, for the consumer, for the future homeowners. Congrats.
Thank you, Miguel. I appreciate your time, man. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for coming to the show. And this was our People Matter show. Thanks for joining us.